Support for the roundup comes from Symphony 3. Councils around the country are working hard to keep their communities safe and prepared before, during and after emergencies such as bushfires and floods. And in recent weeks, Symphony 3 has been working with councils around Victoria, including Greater Bendigo, Mildura, Ararat and Golden Plains, to create emergency dashboards, pulling together live data including weather, traffic, emergency incidents, unplanned and planned disruptions, news and social media feeds. An emergency dashboard is cost-effective and can be deployed in just 3 days. Find out more at www.symphony3.com. Just ahead, the Palestinian flag is coming down in Darebin. A leadership crisis at the City of Ryde stretches into a second week. Legal advice sought over a councillor's claims at the City of Perth. Also today, repeated attempts to elect a deputy mayor at Merri-bek Council fail to deliver. A so-called playground-style spat earns a stern rebuke for 2 Moonee Valley councillors. And a councillor under fire for playing a computer game during a council meeting. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy. All of that and more just ahead on Australia's #1 local government podcast, the Local Government News Roundup. Brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. Hello there, welcome to the Local Government News Roundup. It's Friday the 26th of March 2026 and here are today's top 3 stories from around the nation. After more than 2 years flying above Preston Town Hall, a Palestinian flag in Melbourne's north is coming down. Darebin City Councillors voted to stop flying international flags unless a law requires it, and the flag must be lowered within 10 working days, marked by a brief, respectful ceremony. According to The Age, Mayor Councillor Emily Demetriadis chaired a tense 90-minute debate with repeated warnings to the public gallery. The new policy, moved by independent Councillor Connie Boglis, also removes the Chief Executive's discretion to approve community requests. The Council says feedback was clear, with more than 500 submissions, most calling for no international flags. The City of Ryde in the northern suburbs of Sydney remains in a leadership vacuum, with the council's top 3 executives still sidelined under a wall of silence more than a week after the CEO, deputy and governance head was stood down pending an investigation. Mayor Trenton Brown is yet to speak publicly on the matter, other than confirming in his weekly column that the CEO is on leave. It comes as a new report from the Sydney Morning Herald links the crisis to a serious probity concern over the failed Civic Centre redevelopment. Labor councillors are now calling for an urgent state government inquiry, arguing the public has a right to know who is running the city. And the City of Perth is understood to be seeking legal advice following a public dispute over a purported WorkSafe investigation. Deputy Lord Mayor David Goncalves recently told a council meeting that the safety regulator was investigating the city's administration and CEO Michelle Reynolds. However, the West Australian reported that both WorkSafe and the city have since confirmed that no such investigation exists. The discrepancy has prompted the council to review the legal implications of the Deputy Lord Mayor's claims. And those are our top 3 stories today on the Local Government News Roundup. Now for more news from Victoria, and a 5-month dispute between 2 Moonee Valley councillors, described as playground style, has ended with a stern rebuke from independent arbiter Yehudi Blaisher. The spat began in September when former Mayor Ava Adams twice called Councillor John Sypek a baby as he left a briefing early. Despite multiple apologies from Councillor Adams, Councillor Sypek insisted on a formal arbitration process that dragged on through Christmas. The arbiter found the ability of both councillors to resolve the matter reflects poorly on them, noting the ordeal cost ratepayers $4,675. No formal misconduct was found, but Councillor Adams has been recommended for further training and a final written apology. You can read more on that from the Herald Sun. Merri-bek City Council remains without a deputy mayor after a voting deadlock maintained through 4 attempts at a vote across 2 meetings. The extraordinary election follows the 1-month suspension of Councillor J. Iwasaki for misconduct. The vote between Councillor Kat Irvin and Councillor Katarine Theodosis is locked in a 5-all tie. That's after a first meeting on Wednesday and a second on Thursday, at which there were 2 attempts each to elect the deputy. A 10-minute recess was taken in both meetings in an attempt to break the stalemate. But each time a second ballot returned the exact same results, and under the Local Government Act an absolute majority is required to fill the position. The council will try again with a 3rd meeting scheduled for tonight at 6 o'clock. It's an identical situation to that which occurred in Wyndham City Council in recent weeks, when 3 votes across 2 meetings were required to elect a new mayor and deputy mayor. Wyndham City Council is looking to pull back the curtain on its confidential decisions. A motion from Deputy Mayor Jasmine Hill, passed without debate this week, calls for a more systematic way to release in-camera information to the public. Councillor Hill argues that confidentiality should have a clear life cycle and shouldn't be the permanent default for council business. The CEO will now prepare a report on how to make the release of past confidential decisions more proactive and consistent, with findings due at the next council meeting. In Whittlesea, the council has reaffirmed it will keep running its family daycare service and plans to expand by accepting more educators. The decision follows an independent review of the sector and regulations, and found expansion could boost local jobs, give families more options and help the service stay financially sustainable. Surf Coast Shire Council has confirmed that Robin Seymour will continue at the helm of the organisation, officially reappointing her as Chief Executive Officer for a further 5-year term. Mayor Liz Patterson praised the CEO's leadership, citing her work on the council's 10-year strategy and her navigation of complex regional challenges. In Kinglake, the local community bank branch is closing, and council says it could slow bushfire recovery. Murrindindi Shire says the branch will shut on Friday, June 5th, leaving residents about 25 kilometres from the nearest full-service bank in Hurstbridge. Councillor Sandys Macaulay, the Portfolio Councillor for Economic Development, says the timing is cruel, with people still dealing with insurance claims, grants and rebuilding after January's fires. The council is urging state and federal governments to intervene. Mount Alexander Shire is demanding the federal government hold fossil fuel corporations financially responsible for the mounting costs of local climate disasters. At its most recent meeting, the council passed a motion calling for a national climate pollution levy on coal, gas and oil companies. The funds would be used to establish a national climate compensation fund to help communities and local governments recover from extreme weather events. Councillor Lucas Maddock moved the motion after a string of disasters in the Shire in the last 5 years, including the January 2026 fires. In addition to the levy, the council is seeking a parliamentary inquiry into the 2025 National Adaptation Plan, citing a critical lack of funding for local government responses. Also making news in Victoria, a patch of privately owned land in Kuwirup is under scrutiny after reports of vegetation removal near habitat used by the grey-headed flying fox. Cardinia Shire Council says the species is listed as vulnerable and is protected under Victoria's Wildlife Act. The council is assisting authorities and monitoring the situation. Moonee Valley Council has once again been recognised on a list of top workplaces for women. The Global Work 180 list included Moonee Valley as the only local government organisation in the ranking. It's the 4th year in a row that the council has received the recognition. And Ballarat has a new way to tell its story with a local edition of Monopoly, putting the city's landmarks and favourite places on the board. Mayor Councillor Tracy Hargrave says it's a fun showcase for locals and a fresh hook for visitors. The Monopoly Ballarat edition is now on sale around the city, including from the visitor information and garden outlets and at the Eureka Centre and the Art Gallery. Now on the roundup for this Friday, time to catch you up on some news out of New South Wales. And Lismore is remembering a former mayor who helped shape the city for more than a decade and was widely respected across local government. Jenny Dowell, OAM, has died aged 75, surrounded by family. The Local Government Association of New South Wales says Ms Dowell led with warmth and integrity, bringing people together and making others feel valued and heard. She served on Lismore City Council from 2004 to 2016, including 8 years as mayor, and later worked with LG New South Wales as a teacher and facilitator. Lismore Council says her legacy includes securing funding for the new regional gallery and strengthening the sister city partnership with Yamato Tagata. Valet Jenny Dowell. Shoalhaven City Council has now been issued a performance improvement order over its appointment of former Liberal MP Andrew Constance as General Manager, according to ABC Illawarra. It follows previous advice of the Minister's intention to issue a PIO and monitor recruitment practices over concerns about the integrity of the process. The order requires the Council to submit 3 compliance reports this year, covering restructures, redundancies and all senior leadership appointments since January last year. And Shoalhaven Council says its weekly fuel bill has jumped by about $57,000. It's moving quickly to cut fuel use, encouraging staff to work from home where possible and tightening the use of operational vehicles while keeping essential services running. Mayor Patricia White says the council should lead by example, easing local demand while taking pressure off ratepayers. Water and wastewater bills on the Central Coast are set to rise under a draft decision from the state pricing watchdog. IPART has released proposed maximum prices for Central Coast Council's water business from July 1st. Chair Carmel Donnelly says a typical household using 170 kilolitres a year would see bills increase by 8.7% plus inflation in 2026-27. Then inflation only rises for the following 4 years. IPART is taking submissions until May 1st. The Hunter River fish kill is still under investigation, but the New South Wales EPA says early signs suggest the worst may have passed. Singleton Council has published the latest information from the EPA, which says teams have been taking daily water samples and following up community reports since Friday, with lab results being processed as a high priority. Officers have since seen live fish, alongside fish that appear to have died last week. Swimmers are being urged to follow health advice and avoid drinking untreated river water. The Blue Mountains is still living with a major detour after the Great Western Highway was closed at Victoria Pass. Now the New South Wales Government has pledged $50 million to strengthen the alternative routes taking the extra load. Blue Mountains City Council says the upgrades should make travel safer and more reliable for locals, freight operators and visitors. Mayor Mark Greenhill says people are relying on these roads every day and the work needs to move quickly while the main highway remains shut. The council is also asking for clearer timelines on when the Great Western Highway will reopen. Meanwhile, Parkes Shire Council has joined a regional Other Ways to the West campaign to reassure travellers that the Central West remains open and accessible despite the closure of the Great Western Highway. The campaign was born out of concerns for the impacts on local businesses, freight connectivity and tourism across the region. Gosford has been talked about for years, but Central Coast Council says it's time to move from plans to progress. At an ordinary meeting, the councillors have agreed to take the lead on a coordinated push to fast-track renewal of the CBD and waterfront. Mayor Laurie McKenna says Gosford's success will shape the region's economic future, and the council wants to turn potential into reality. Anyone considering building in Byron Shire should know your next home or business may be all electric by design. The council is considering changes to the development control plan that would phase out new natural gas connections, leaving electricity as the only option for hot water, heating, cooling and cooking in new developments. The push reflects moves by other New South Wales councils and is driven by concerns about long-term costs, environmental impacts and health. Wollongong City Council has put a draft community safety plan out for public exhibition focused on reducing crime and antisocial behaviour and strengthening community wellbeing. The plan builds on work with New South Wales Police and local services and keeps programs like Safer Cities Her Way, aimed at making public spaces feel safer for women, girls and gender diverse people. And About Regional has reported on a leadership shake-up at Eurobodalla Shire Council. General Manager Mark Ferguson is reviewing the organisation's structure, and the council says it won't comment further until the review is complete. But insiders told the website that the number of directorates could drop from 4 to 3 and several senior staff have already left, including Finance Director Stephanie Speedy and former Chief Operating Officer Kelly Pisanos. Also in the news in New South Wales, former Gunnedah Mayor Jamie Chaffey has been named the Coalition's Shadow Assistant Minister for Regional Development, Local Government and Territories. The member for Parks will keep his resources role, but says the new portfolio reflects how central councils are to everyday services. Narrabri Shire Council's vacancy after the resignation of Amanda Brown will be filled by countback. Applications from eligible candidates from the last election closed this week. The count will be run on Tuesday, with results expected shortly after. And Coffs Harbour Council has voted to apply for membership of Regional Capitals Australia after leaving the organisation in 2022. Mayor Nikki Williams says working with other like-sized councils opens doors to ministers and senior officials, and it helps push local priorities as federal settings increasingly shape state and local budgets. This is the Local Government News Roundup, episode number 568 for Friday the 27th of March. And we're a little over a month away from the next VLGA LGIU Global Live panel. A great opportunity to hear perspectives from executives not just in Australia but from other parts of the world. The topic for the next panel on Thursday the 30th of April is the evolving nature of local democracy, from core service delivery to broader advocacy. Local government is experiencing a significant and ongoing transformation, with increasing pressure and evolving community expectations reshaping the roles of councils. The session will explore these shifts through a past, present and future perspective. Thursday, the 30th of April from 5:30pm Australian Standard Time. You can find out more and book your place by heading to the events page on the VLGA website at vlga.org.au. Time for some Queensland news, and councils there have welcomed the state government's move to develop a statewide waste and recycling infrastructure roadmap. But they say households still need relief from the waste levy flowing through to rates. LGAQ President Mayor Matt Burnett says involving local government is a good start, and councils want to see real funding in the June state budget. He says the state's levy offset has fallen to 70% and is set to drop again to 60% from July, adding to cost of living pressure in 19 council areas. Hervey Bay's beach rules for dogs are changing again, and the council says it's trying to make the map simpler for everyone. Fraser Coast Regional Council has voted to start amending its animal management local laws after the first stage of new dog zones began last month. Animal management spokesperson Councillor John Wheeland says dog owners asked for clearer off-leash and on-leash areas, while other beach users wanted dog-free swimming spots and better protection for wildlife. Stage 2, planned for later this year, includes a longer dog-free stretch, a new dog-free zone and a seasonal shorebird protection area. Whitsunday Regional Council will trial a strategic procurement pilot inside its aviation team aimed at improving efficiency, strengthening governance and getting better value for money at Whitsunday Coast Airport. Cairns Regional Council wants the state to act on disruptive behaviour in the CBD, and it's asking for new targeted powers to do it. The council is pushing for a designated business and community precinct so police can use expanded 24/7 powers in the city centre. That's alongside a larger on-the-ground presence. And Ipswich City Council says this year's CMC Rocks Queensland was an outstanding success, drawing more than 25,000 country music fans to Willowbank Raceway over 3 days. Next year marks the 20th year of the festival, which Mayor Teresa Harding says is worth between $13 and $15 million to the local economy. Around the rest of the nation, firstly to Tasmania, a controversial proposal for a new zip line at Hobart's Ridgeway Reserve is the subject of a petition to be tabled at Monday's City Council meeting. The company TasZip is seeking to build a 1.1 kilometre line running from a 35-metre tower near the reservoir down to the Waterworks Reserve. Local residents have hit back with a petition of over 100 signatures, citing concerns over noise, traffic and threats to wildlife. Despite the backlash, TasZip Managing Director Shane Abel defends the project, stating that independent assessments show no negative impact on the area's amenity. According to reports in the Mercury, the project is expected to receive initial procedural consent from the council's CEO, paving the way for a formal planning assessment and a separate round of public consultation. In the north of the state, on those cold winter nights in the Tamar Valley, smoke can get trapped close to the ground, and Launceston Council says wood heaters are a big part of the problem. The city is asking residents to complete a short online survey as it develops a domestic wood smoke plan. It's seeking details on what people use to heat their homes, whether wood smoke affects their health, and what would encourage a switch to cleaner options. Mayor Matthew Garwood says the evidence will guide steps like real-time air quality information and public awareness campaigns. After nearly 8 years in local government, Derwent Valley Councillor Jessica Cosgrove is stepping down. Ms Cosgrove, a former Deputy Mayor and Acting Mayor, told New Norfolk News that she's handed her resignation to the council's Chief Executive with 6 months left before the next election. She says it's not the ending she imagined, but points to sustained pressure and personal attacks as among the reasons for her decision. Ms Cosgrove says she's now focusing on family and her health and well-being. In South Australia, a councillor is under fire after being caught playing digital solitaire during an official council meeting. Photos obtained by The Advertiser show Norwood, Payneham and St Peters councillor Scott Sims engaged in the card game while council business was underway in a meeting last year. Mayor Robert Breer described the behaviour as a sickening lack of respect for ratepayers. It's not the first controversy for Councillor Sims, who has previously faced legal issues and a censure. The Local Government Association noted that elected members' performance is ultimately judged at the ballot box. A new set of governance resources is being rolled out for councils in South Australia ahead of the 2026 local government elections. The Local Government Association of South Australia says the updated guides reflect recent legislative changes and are aimed at helping councillors and staff meet their obligations in day-to-day decisions. The City of Victor Harbor has made a significant U-turn on its housing policy, officially reversing its position regarding the state's downsizer stamp duty exemption. That's after carefully considering community feedback, according to Mayor Dr Moira Jenkins. On behalf of the council, she apologised for any unintended offence caused. The council will now write to the Treasurer to support the extension of stamp duty relief for seniors looking to downsize into smaller, more manageable homes. At the other end of the home buying spectrum, Mount Gambier Council is trying to ease the first couple of years, endorsing a discretionary rate rebate for eligible first home buyers building a new home or buying off the plan. It would cover 100% of general rates for up to 2 years from July 1st next year if the owner lives in the home. Chief Executive Officer Paul Simpson says other charges still apply, but the rebate is short-term help while supporting local builders. More news now from Western Australia, and in Perth's inner east, the town of Bassendean has abandoned the planned sale of its council-run Wind in the Willows childcare centres after the only interested buyer pulled out. Mayor Catherine Hamilton says the status quo is not sustainable, with the service forecast to run close to a $400,000 deficit by year's end. WA Today reported that the council will now look for a not-for-profit to run the Ashfield Centre and will seek state or federal funding while still signalling it intends to sell the Bassendean site. A motorsport racetrack planned for Perth Park is facing a local roadblock from the town of Victoria Park, which has voted unanimously to recommend the state government refuse part of the development. The section runs along roads the town controls. Mayor Karen Vernon says the council was forced to make the call without seeing community consultation results after the Department of Planning told the town to assess the application before public feedback closes on the 2nd of April. The council also points to missing noise modelling and environmental reports and no full design for the entire track. The WA Planning Commission will hold a hearing after consultation closes. In Bunbury, flocks of little corellas are stripping trees, chewing through cables and fittings, and leaving sporting clubs with repair bills. ABC News reported that even sirens and noise deterrents are not shifting them, including at Hands Oval near the city's new stadium. Bunbury Mayor Jason McGuell says more residents are calling for stronger action, and the city is urging people to report sightings as it ramps up trapping and other controls. And in the Northern Territory, Victoria Daly Regional Council says Northern Territory Police plan to withdraw a permanent presence and deliver services from Katherine, about 90 kilometres away. Mayor Brian Pedwell says locals feel blindsided and worry it will erode safety and confidence, especially when emergencies already take time. Deputy Mayor and Pine Creek Ward Councillor Yvette Williams says businesses are anxious ahead of the peak tourism season and residents fear more antisocial behaviour. The council is urging the Chief Minister to reconsider and work with the community on a safe and sustainable solution. Have you had a chance to check out the new Local Government News Roundup website yet? I'd love you to do so and let me know your thoughts. It's your go-to place now for all the details of episodes as we release them, as well as breaking news between episodes, and there's other resources there too, such as mayor's listings, CEO appointment listings, and a new weekly poll, which I'd love you to play with. It's currently asking your thoughts on what should happen when a councillor decides to run for state or federal office. You'll find that down the right-hand side of the website. Check it out at lgnewsroundup.com. And thanks again to James Rath at Rath Engineering Development for all his hard work on bringing our new website to life. Let's head to our global report now. Big news in the UK. It's being billed as the biggest shake-up of local government in a generation, with the UK government moving to end England's two-tier council system. A written statement this week from Secretary of State Steve Reid says 17 unitarisation proposals have been assessed after consultation closed in January. Subject to Parliament, the government plans new unitary councils across Essex, Hampshire and the Solent, Norfolk and Suffolk, with elections in May 2027 and new councils due to start in April 2028. 2 Sussex areas are still undecided. The statement also confirms in principle repayment of £200 million of Thurrock's debt and says new powers will allow direct intervention where councils take excessive borrowing risks. London is trying to get homes out of the planning pipeline and onto the ground. The UK government and Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, have agreed a temporary package to unblock stalled sites and speed up thousands of affordable homes across the capital. It includes a fast-track route for schemes with at least 20% affordable housing and time-limited relief from the Community Infrastructure Levy to improve project viability. Ministers are also expanding the Mayor's power to call in applications for 50 homes or more when a borough is minded to refuse. A new pay offer for local government staff is now in front of the unions, with employers calling it full and final. National employers have put a 3.3% rise on the table, covering about 1.5 million council workers across England, Wales and Northern Ireland, at a cost they estimated at £870 million. Chair of the National Employers, Leeds City Council leader James Lewis, says for the lowest paid, the offer would mean pay has risen by £7,282 since 2021. LG Chronicle reported that Unison, Unite and the GMB are considering the deal. Let's go to Canada now, where Ontario is running out of time to tighten the rules for councillors who seriously misbehave ahead of the province's October municipal elections. CBC News reported that the Progressive Conservative government's Bill 9, the Municipal Accountability Act, still needs a final vote and royal assent, and nominations are opening on the 1st of May. Municipal law expert John Mascarin says the bill is too slow and may never work because removing a councillor would require a unanimous vote of the rest of the council. Municipal Affairs Minister Rob Flack says the goal is to pass it before the election, while critics warn candidates and councils need clarity soon. In Sarnia, the council is pushing back against divisive comments made by one of its members. A motion has been passed calling on Councillor Bill Dennis to apologise to an Indigenous artist and to First Nations chiefs and communities after comments about a welcome mural at City Hall. CTV News reported that Councillor Dennis did not attend the special meeting but told reporters he will not apologise. Council will seek advice on possible human rights issues and plans a formal thank you to the artist. And finally today from Vancouver, supporters are stepping up to help Councillor Sean Orr fund his defamation suit against Mayor Ken Sim. A GoFundMe has topped $44,000 so far, according to Business in Vancouver. Orr alleges Mayor Sim wrongly accused him of handing out illegal drugs, a claim Sim has apologised for, saying it was his mistake. The lawsuit says the comments damaged Orr's reputation and seeks damages and an injunction to stop the allegation being repeated. Mayor Sim's office says the mayor will pay for his own legal defence and will not comment while the matter is before the courts. And that's another week of the Roundup in the can. This was edition number 568, recorded on the morning of Friday the 26th of March. If you have comments or feedback, you can send us an email to lgweeklynews@gmail.com. Also send us your story ideas or interview suggestions and head to lgnewsroundup.com to find out more about this and other episodes, including the story links for the stories we feature in our podcast. The podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government. Look out for a new episode of VLGA Connect soon. And we receive support from Symphony 3, simple connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. We record in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until next time, thanks for listening, and bye for now. Support for the Local Government News Roundup comes from Rath Engineering Development, smarter systems for local government, like Red GMS, helping councils manage gravel pits and projects, track quality, test results, blending options and haulage, and know the true cost per tonne from day one. Rath Engineering Development can give you a one-off report that uses your existing pit data to pinpoint the best gravel sources for your next resheeting program or disaster restoration works, saving your council time and money. For local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience, talk to the team at Rath Engineering Development. Head to rathed.com.au to find out more.